All right, ladies, in this video, we're going through 5D, which is factorizing non-monic quadratic trinomials. So in the previous video, in the previous section, 5C, we were looking at monic quadratics, which, so monic quadratics just means the coefficient of x squared in your quadratic is 1. Here we have non-monic quadratics. So you can see here, if we just go over, the coefficient of x squared is represented by a. So a just represents any number that is not 1. You can also see b is the coefficient of x and c is your constant. Now to factorize these, they are a little bit different. So what you need to do is find two numbers that multiply to give a times c and add to give b. So in this expression here, we've got 15x squared, so your a is 15, minus x, so your value of b is -1, and -6 is your c. So if we multiplied a and c, so 15 and -6, we get -90. So we need two numbers also that multiply to -90 but add to -1, which are -10 and 9. Now the reason we do that, and you can see it in this next dot point, so it's just rewritten the expression. Okay, so 15x squared minus x minus 6. So instead of this negative x, we now write it as -10x plus 9x. Okay, so we haven't really changed anything. We're just rewriting it so we can factorize it. Okay, so if we look at the second step, what we've done is we've taken out a common factor for the first two terms. So we're just grouping. So the common factor for 15x squared and 10x is 5x. So that's where the 5x comes from. And then we're just left with 3x minus 2. Then for the next two terms, 9x and 6, the common factor is 3. So we take that out and then we're left with just 3x minus 2. And you can see now that we can group because we've got two lots of 3x minus 2 and we're left with 5x plus 3. Okay, so we're factorizing by grouping. All right, so, oh, my son is being very loud downstairs. So no matter how much I tell him, how many times I tell him to be quiet, he thinks he is. Okay, so let's do 5D. This box here I've put in because it might help you go through the steps. So you can see here the first one, we've got a times c. So 6 and 6 gives you 36. And in this spot here, we need two numbers that multiply to give a times c and add to give b. So in this case, b is 13. Okay, so if I just quickly write that down, so we've got 6x squared plus 13x plus 6. A times c, so a is 6, c is also 6, so that's where the 36 has come from. And we need two numbers that multiply to give you 36 and add to give the value of b, so in this case 13. So two numbers that multiply to give you 36 and add to give you 13. So we know that here it's told us 1 is already 9. Okay, so 9 plus what gives you 13, so 9 plus 4, and then 9 times 4 is 36. So your missing number here is 4. If I just scroll down to the next one. Okay, we've got 8x squared plus 18x plus 4. If you want, you can write underneath what a, b, and c are. So we're going to do a times c first. So it's 8 times 4, which is 32. So we need two numbers. When multiplied gives you 32, and when added gives you b, which is 18. All right, so we just can think of factor pairs of 32. So we've already done 8 and 4. What else? We got 16 and 2. You can do more, but I already know the answer is going to be 16 and 2. So 16 times 2 is 32, and 16 plus 2 is 18. Now, that's just the first step. So you saw how we were doing it in the key ideas. So I'm going to just go the next step further and actually factorize it and show you why we're using these values 16 and 2. So we rewrite our expression 8x squared. Instead of 18x, I'm going to write 16x plus 2x. Now remember that we're not changing anything because 16x plus 2x is still 18x. I'm just doing it so I can factorize it. So the 4 stays there. The only thing that changes are these values in the middle. All right, so now I factorize my first 2 terms. Now, if you've written it around the, not really the wrong way, but the wrong way for grouping, you can just switch them. So see how I wrote the 16 before the 2? If you write the 2 first and then the 16, that's fine. You won't know until you do it whether you can group it. If not, you just switch them around. So I don't even know. I'm going to keep working to see whether it works. So 8x is a common factor there. So we've got 8x times x gives you 8x squared, and then 8x times 2 gives you the 16x. The common factor for the next is 2, and then we're left with x plus 2. Okay, so let's just scroll. I'm just thinking off the top of my head here. It will work if you did have the 16x and the 2x around the other way. I'm pretty sure without doing it. Okay, and then we're just factorizing by grouping. So you got 8x plus 2 times x plus 2. All right, I'm not going to go through all of the building understanding because we've got quite a few questions here. So let's just scroll. So A got 3x squared plus 10x plus 3. Okay, so label them A, B, and C. So A times C is 3 times 3, which is 9. And what we want is 2 numbers when multiplied gives you 9, and when you add gives you 10. So I can already see that it's going to be 9 and 1. Okay, so it's a nice, easy one. So when I rewrite this expression, I'm going to rewrite it as 3x squared plus 9x plus 1x, so it's just x plus 3. And then I'm going to take out the common factor. So I've got 3x here, which leaves me with x plus 3. And then I've just got, well, there's no common factor here, so it's just x plus 3. But there is, sorry, I should probably say that if you put a 1 in, it's going to remind you to do the next step, which is 3x and 1, x plus 3. All right, moving, I'm not going to do all from question 2, so I might just skip to E. So we've got 2x squared minus 11x plus 5. So identifying your A, your B, and your C. So multiply your A and your C. So 2 times 5 is 10. So we need 2 numbers when multiplied gives you 10, and 2 numbers when added gives you negative 11. And I can see that those numbers are going to be 10 and not 10 and 1, negative 10 and 1. All right, so negative 10, negative 10 times negative 1 is positive 10, and negative 10 plus negative 1 is negative 11. Okay, so let's just scroll, get some more space. All right, so we start off with 2x squared. Remember, it's only this middle term that changes. So I'm going to rewrite that as negative 10x minus 1x. So I haven't changed the expression, I've just kind of rewritten it. It's same thing. And then the plus 5 on the end. So just done that so we can simplify it or factorize it. So first two terms, a common factor is 2x. So I'm left with x minus 5. And then for the next two terms, my common factor is just going to be 1. Oops, I'm going to change that to a negative 1. So now I've got x minus 5. Okay, so I took out negative 1 as a common factor. So my terms within the bracket, they're the same. Okay, so you can do that if you need to. All right, so let's group. So 2x minus 1 and x minus 5. So good thing about factorizing, if you ever need to check your answer, you can always expand. Right, and if you get 2x squared minus 11x plus 5, you know you're on the right track. All right, let's move on to question 3. I'm just going to get my red pen up. We've got 18x squared plus 27x plus 10. So probably a little bit harder, I'm guessing, as we go along. So identify your A, your B, and your C. So let's multiply A times C is 18 times 10, which is 180. So two numbers when multiplied gives you 180, and when added gives you 27. Just seeing if we could take out a common factor, but we can't. Okay, so we're dealing with quite high numbers here. I'm just thinking in my head first. Just give me a sec. All right, so I had to just think about it. So we've got 15 and 12. So 15 times 12 gives you 180, and then 15 plus 12 gives you 27. So obviously you would have to probably go through quite a few factors of 180, but it's a bit time consuming ones like this. Okay, so let's just write out our expression again. So 18x squared plus 15x plus 12x. And then what have we got on the end? 10. Okay, so let's take out a common factor. So the common factor for 18x squared and 15x is, what is that going to be, 3x, and we're left with 6x plus 5. And then the second one, common factor is 2, so we're left with 6x plus 5. All right, so we'll just scroll. Now we'll do grouping 3x and 2, and then 6x plus 5. Okay, so there's your final factorization. Now, if you're wondering why this works, when you think about expanding this quadratic, so if we do 3x times 6x, that's giving us our 18x squared, which is here. And then when we do 3x times 5, we get 15x, which is this. And then we've got our 2 times 6x, which is 12x. And then 2 times 5, which is 10. So you can kind of see how that, like, it's just the reverse of this process, okay? But questions like this, when you're dealing with such high numbers, just take a little longer. All right, let's do questions. Let's move on to 4, just so the video is not too long. And I'll do both in question 4. So we've got 6x squared plus 38x plus 40. So if we can take out a common factor, take the common factor out first. So I know because they're all even numbers that you can take out the number 2. Let's just make sure there's no other number. You can't take the number 3 and you can't take the number 6. So I'm just going to leave 2 out the front, and then everything will just divide by 2 because we've taken it out as a common factor. Oops, yeah, sorry, just making sure I'm right. Okay, and then we're just dealing with what's inside the bracket. So your 2 will always stay there. So every time you start a new line, don't forget your 2. Okay, so just using a different color. So an A, there we go, and that's B, and that's C. And I'm just going to do the working out over here. So A times C, 3 times 20 is 60. So we want 2 numbers when multiplied gives you 60. And when we add them together, we're going to get 19. So let's just think of factors of 60. I know 12 and 5. Oh no, 12 and 5 is not going to work for me. This is always a pain when I got to think. I'm going to pause and think away from the screen. All right, that one didn't take me as long as the previous one. So 15 and 4. I like the number 60 because I always think of a clock. All right, and that helps me do all the factor pairs. Oops, what am I doing? I'm racing ahead. I saw that bracket and I got excited, but we're missing a step. Okay, stop popping up. Bye-bye. All right, so we're going to rewrite this. Remember, your first term stays there. It's just this middle term that we're going to separate. So it becomes 15x plus 4x. And then we've got the 20 on the end. All right, so 2 stays, and let's do our start doing our grouping. So what factor is common to both 3x squared and 15x? So it's going to be 3x. And don't worry about our multiple brackets. We'll deal with that at the end. So we've got x plus 5. And then we've got common factor of 4. And I'm left with x plus 5. Remember, you ideally want the same same bracket. Sorry, my dog's just at the door wanting to get in. Okay, so the 2 stays there. Let's group. So 3x and the 4. So add them together. And they can go in their own bracket. We don't need a bigger bracket, okay, because there's no need for it. So it's just 2 times 3x plus 4 times x plus 5. Now, if you wanted to, you can go ahead and expand that to prove that you're right. So in a test, if you ever wanted to check, you can easily check. Another way of checking without expanding it is just substituting in a number for both. And if you get the same answer, you're probably right. Okay, so last one. First thing is taking out a common factor. So you don't have to necessarily do it at the start, but at the end, you'll be doing it anyway. So, and it's a lot easier to deal with smaller values. Oops, that's not going to be a 3, it should be a 2. So it's going to be 2x squared minus 5x minus 12. Okay, so I've just taken 3 out as a common factor. So we've got 3. Okay, let's label them A, B, and C. A, B, C. Oh, this is a negative one. I don't think I've done a negative one yet. Okay, so A times C, 2 times negative 12 is negative 24. So we need 2 numbers. When multiplied, gives us negative 24. And when we add them, gives us negative 24. Oh, not negative 24. Sorry. Did I make a mistake? I'm just thinking now that I made a mistake on the previous one. Let me just scroll back up. Oh, no, I did that right. Oh, okay. So it has to be negative 15. Sorry. The value of B. All right, so 2 numbers. Let me just think this isn't too high. I might have to just pause, I think. You know, I just realized that it couldn't be done because I made a mistake here. As I keep saying in my videos, I get tired when I do a lot in one go. So that's what's happening here. I'm making mistakes. Oh, I wish you wouldn't pop up. You're going to pop up again? Okay. That should be a 5. Sorry, that should be a negative 5. Okay, so it's a value of B here. I was looking at our original one. So again, we all make small mistakes. We've got to try to avoid them. Okay, now it works if I do 8 and 3. So I know my numbers are going to be 8 and 3, I just got to realize which one's going to be the negative and which one's going to be the positive. Because this is -5, -8 plus 3. So it's going to be a -8 and a positive 3. So I rewrite my expression now. So the 2x squared stays. It's only this middle term that changes. So -8x plus 3x minus 12. Okay, so now I can factorize by grouping. So 2x squared. Oh, what am I doing? I'm rewriting the same thing. I don't know why that comes up. Okay. Probably could do something about it. Okay, sorry, I didn't take out the common factor. So what factor is common to 2x squared minus 8x? So it's going to be, oh, I was writing that anyway. Silly me. Okay. And then which number is common to 3x and 12? So it's going to be 3, and we're left with x minus 4. Okay, so now we do our grouping, 2x plus 3 and x minus 4. And I think it's probably a good time to end before I make any more mistakes. All right, bye girls.